D.B. Cooper, the man who stole $200,000 and vanished forever. November 24th, 1971. An ordinary rainy day in the American city of Portland. A middle-aged man wearing a dark suit, a white shirt, and a black tie walked into the airport. There was nothing unusual about him. He looked like an ordinary businessman traveling for work. Approaching the ticket counter, the man purchased a one-way ticket for Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 to Seattle. On the ticket, he gave the name Dan Cooper. No one knew that, within a few hours, that name would become a legend. After boarding, Cooper took a seat near the rear of the Boeing 727. The plane took off, and the passengers calmly went about their business. A few minutes after takeoff, Cooper called over a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner and handed her a note. At first, she assumed it was a phone number from another passenger and slipped it into her pocket. Then the man quietly said, "Miss, you'd better read that note. I have a bomb." The flight attendant turned pale and opened the paper. Inside was a short message. "I have a bomb. Sit beside me." Florence obeyed. Cooper slightly opened his briefcase. The flight attendant saw wires, batteries, and red cylinders that looked like sticks of dynamite. The bomb appeared to be real. Cooper then calmly explained his demands. He wanted $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a refueled airplane after landing. The demands were immediately passed to the pilots and then to the authorities. A rescue operation began. Surprisingly, Cooper never appeared nervous. While FBI agents gathered the ransom money, he calmly drank bourbon and soda, smoked cigarettes, and spoke politely with the flight attendants. Some crew members later said he seemed more like a college professor than a criminal. The aircraft continued circling in the air while authorities prepared the ransom. Eventually, Flight 305 landed in Seattle. Police officers and airline representatives were already waiting on the runway. The money and parachutes were delivered to Cooper. After checking them, he ordered all passengers to be released. The people left the aircraft without realizing they had just become part of one of the most famous crimes of the 20th century. Only the pilots and a few crew members remained on board. Cooper then gave new instructions. The aircraft was to fly toward Mexico at a low altitude with the flaps extended. The pilots warned him that such conditions were unusual and dangerous, but Cooper insisted. The plane took off again. Outside, the weather was terrible. Heavy rain was falling. The temperature had dropped below freezing. Strong winds were blowing. If a man truly intended to jump, his chances of survival seemed extremely low. Around 8 o'clock that evening, Cooper ordered the crew to remain inside the cockpit. He stayed alone in the rear section of the aircraft. Some time later, the pilots heard a strange noise. Then a warning light indicated that the rear stairway of the Boeing 727 had been lowered. A few minutes later, the aircraft suddenly lurched. At that moment, D.B. Cooper disappeared. He jumped into the darkness with a parachute and a bag containing $200,000. No one witnessed the jump. No one knew the exact landing location. When the aircraft landed, Cooper was gone. A massive manhunt began. The FBI devoted enormous resources to the investigation. Forests, mountains, and rivers were searched. Thousands of suspects were investigated. Agents examined fingerprints, witness statements, and even cigarette butts left behind by Cooper. But there were almost no clues. Years passed. The case became even more mysterious. Many experts believed Cooper died during the jump. The night was far too cold. He was not wearing proper survival equipment. The area below the aircraft consisted of dense forests and rugged mountain terrain, yet no body was ever found. Then, in 1980, something unexpected happened. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was playing on the banks of the Columbia River. While digging in the sand, he discovered several decaying bundles of cash. When investigators checked the serial numbers, they made an astonishing discovery. The money belonged to D.B. Cooper. Part of the ransom had somehow ended up in the river. But how? Did the money reach the river after Cooper died? Or did someone deliberately place it there years later? No one knew. As the decades passed, new suspects continued to emerge. Some researchers believed Cooper was a former military paratrooper. Others suspected a professional pilot. Still others argued that the hijacker had used a false identity and spent years planning the operation. But nothing could ever be proven. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the investigation. After 45 years, agents still could not identify the mysterious hijacker. Today, the story of D.B. Cooper remains one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. A man boarded an airplane under a false name.